Hello, my name's Franz and this is myboxingcoach.com. I'm going to talk through 6 tips that I can give you to help you become a good counterpuncher. Okay, and I always find it difficult really to distinguish between great counterpunching and great boxing. I think the two things are pretty much the same, but I think it's sometimes useful just to distinguish. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk through a little intro to my definition of what counterpunching is, and I'm going to whiz you through 6 helpful hints that'll allow you to, or that'll give you something to work on in order to improve how you deal with counterpunching. Okay, Oxford English Dictionary, their definition of a counterpuncher is something that, or a counterpuncher is something that leaves me a little bit uncomfortable. Their definition is, and a great institution that it is, giving a punch for one received. Well, as a boxing coach, I really get uncomfortable with that whole, receiving a punch just because you can land one. Some boxers are like that, but the vast majority of boxers like to give a punch without particularly receiving one back. So my definition is landing a punch in response to an action or a reaction from your opponent. And that reaction bit is really important because that's what you use to become a really good counterpuncher. You generate a reaction in order to take advantage of it and score your own punch. So the 6 tips. Number 1, make your jab the very best it can be. All of the great, what people consider to be counterpunchers, have a fantastic jab. Okay, so whether you use your jab to break an opponent apart, or whether you use your jab to generate a reaction in the opponent, make sure it's clean, make sure you're getting the full extension and that you're accelerating onto the target. You're not over committing with the shot, you're not allowing your elbow to flare up before the shot goes. Okay, and you can play with the jab as a counter puncher. You can vary the speed and the power, and it's a fantastic shot for generating the reaction in an opponent. An opponent may bring the arms up to defend the jab and leave an opening down below. They may bring their hand forward and leave an opening round the side. Make your jab the best it can be. Number 2, don't wait for something to happen. Make something happen. It's a popular misconception that counterpunchers are these wonderfully patient, like a snake waiting to strike. That's just not accurate. Counterpunchers make things happen. 90% of exchanges initiated involving a counterpuncher are initiated by the counterpuncher. So whether it be initiating it using the jab, for instance, is one thing, but really feinting is really where it's at. Okay, if you want to trigger a reaction in your opponent, you learn all about feinting. And 3 very quick tips on feinting. Number 1, you can feint with your hands, so you can pretend the shot's coming. Okay. Number 2, you can feint with a body movement. Okay, so you can do little slips, and that'll trigger a reaction in an opponent. Or number 3, you can feint with your feet, which would be, so you're pretending to go into range. Okay, trigger the opponent. I like to call that the delayed arrival. I'll take you through that one in a minute. Now, Sugar Ray Leonard used to feint with his eyebrows. Always used to like that. So learn about feinting. It's a fantastic way to drive the reaction in the opponent, ready for you to get your shots in. Drills. We love drills. Boxing coaches work drills week in, week out. So drill preset counter-punching patterns. Okay. When you're in the gym, when you're on the heavy bag, understand that certain punches work really well together. Certain punches will trigger openings in other areas. So a hook to the body may trigger openings up top, because quite simply an opponent might drop their hands down in order to defend the shot to the body. A feinted uppercut or an uppercut might create an opening by an opponent pulling their head back to pull the way out of it, leaving themselves open for hooks. So work 3 preset drills. Here's a couple for you. Number 1, jab, slip, long range right hook, okay? Straight right hand, long range right hook. Okay, you can write all of your comments about that's not a right hook down below. Okay, so jab, slip, long range right hook. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now the slip is just a bend on the back leg. So at speed you get 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, drill that over and over again in front of the mirrors on the back. Jab, side step, straight backhand. Jab, side step, straight backhand. Both things are predicting a response from the opponent in the form of a straight shot, a jab or a straight right hand from your opponent. 1, 2, 3, straight backhand. So at speed what you get is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that side step, push off the front leg, land in the spot and fire a straight backhand. Drill pre-set passages of boxing and counter-punching. Number 4 then, whilst you can drill those things, always keep an eye on your opponent. Look for patterns in their responses. What are they doing? When you go to study them, when you go to throw a jab and your opponent goes to block it, do they bring their hand too far forward? Because if they do, next time you throw a jab, feint it and just turn it into a left hook, and that'll take advantage of bringing it around the side. Do they move forward in repetitive straight lines? Are they predictable? Do they have defensive frailties? When you're going to attack them, do their elbows drop? Do their elbows lift? Does the head come up? Look for these little mannerisms in your opponents. Obviously the higher level you get in boxing, the fewer of those there are. So coming back to the previous one about making something happen, that's really important when you get more experience and the quality of your opponent increases. Number 5 then is adapt your style of counter-punching to the opponent. And this is really about whether you're a front foot counter-puncher or a more passive back foot counter-puncher. Okay, whether you let your opponent come on or whether you go and get them. Mike Tyson was one of the most amazing counter-punchers. Constant movement, jab, constantly triggering an opponent, preset passages, so he'd be there and his arms would be in and he'd be stepping into range against really tall opponents. He'd be stepping into range. He'd be making the opponent throw punches and he'd be landing his own shots, right? How is that? That is the most consummate counter-punching. And it's even better because it's front foot counter-punching. Much harder. Boxers really generally like opponents to attack them because the game is set up for a more defensive-minded boxer. Okay? So if you're boxing, a good rule of thumb, if you're boxing someone tall, you're going to be a front foot counter-puncher. You're going to pressure them, you're going to make the openings there, and every time they get their jabs out, you're going to be looking to fire back. If you're boxing someone shorter, more powerful than you, you're more likely to be a hold your ground, back foot counter-puncher, the Floyd Mayweather type. Okay, so suit your style of counter-punching to the physicality of the opponent in front of you. And finally, number 6, learn your hand and arm defences and learn them well. Okay, when when you manage to block an opponent's shot with your hands, with your arms, you know you're in range, so you can automatically fire back. Okay. So learn your blocks, block, block. Learn your parries, parries inside, there, parries outside. Okay. Blocks to the body, blocks to the head. But the golden rule is, when you block, always fire back. It's a waste of your time if you don't. Because ultimately now computer scoring is long gone now. It's about judges looking for an aggression and looking for the aggression and taking control of the bout. So if you just stand there and block all these shots and don't fire back, then you're missing an opportunity. Okay, you've got to learn to block fire, block fire, block fire, parry, block fire. Okay, all the time. Defense, fire, defense, fire. Okay. So that's it. That's 6 tips for you. Just remember my little view on life. Great counter punching is great boxing. Great boxing is great counter punching. Okay. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Comments down below. My name is Franz Sands and this is myboxingcoach.com.